Meghan Markle's Netflix disaster just keeps getting messier. And this time, it's not just a few creative differences or some light PR missteps. No, this is deeper. We're talking about a full-on internal investigation that's left Netflix execs scrambling, scripts tossed in the trash, and Meghan completely stripped of her creative powers. It all started quietly like most scandals do, but once Netflix brass caught wind of what was really going on behind the scenes of With Love, Meghan, Season 2, they hit the brakes hard. Now, here's where it starts to get wild. Turns out Meghan had been leaving behind little breadcrumbs all over her creative office. Handwritten notes, personal outlines, script suggestions, and even scene concepts that she planned for the show. When Netflix cleared out her space, they found everything. And what they uncovered, it was enough to leave even the most seasoned producers shaking their heads. Let's start with the pregnancy videos. Yes, you heard that right. Meghan reportedly planned to include scenes in the show where she would react to old videos of herself. Videos she filmed years ago while pregnant, dancing to rap music and lip-syncing in the kitchen. One idea in particular was to have her cooking while these clips played in the background. Executives were baffled. Who thought this would land well with Netflix's audience? It felt forced, like Meghan was trying to turn her personal phone gallery into a Netflix original. Then came the divorce segment. In one of her now infamous notes, Meghan drafted out a scene where she and actress Mindy Kaling would have a serious conversation about the consequences of divorce. The scene wasn't meant to be a small throwaway moment. It was an entire episode arc built around it. And while discussing relationships and personal struggles might sound like good storytelling on paper, Netflix didn't see it that way. Insiders said it read more like Meghan projecting her personal baggage onto viewers rather than offering meaningful content. It felt more about her than it did about the audience. But that's still not the worst of it. The most eyebrow-raising piece of the puzzle was an extended 8-minute sequence Meghan wrote about alcoholism. In the notes, she outlined a scene meant to raise awareness. But again, producers felt it had more to do with Meghan processing her own issues than anything genuinely constructive. This only got more suspicious when reports surfaced that she had been caught storing multiple boxes of wine meant for the cast inside her personal trailer. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. And here's the thing, none of these scenes ever made it into the actual script. Netflix had already taken creative control away from Meghan by that point. They kept her notes, archived them, and moved forward without her input. But when she tried to push for those same ideas to be used during last-minute reshoots, that's when it all boiled over. Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix, flat out rejected her plea. No negotiation, no soft let down, just a straight-up no. What followed was predictable drama. Meghan didn't take the rejection lightly. She reportedly begged, argued, and tried to spin her ideas as visionary. But Sarandos wasn't having it. The decision stood. The notes were never revisited, and the production moved ahead without a clear script, leaning on a decision to make and fast. With Greg Peters already pushing for a course correction, and Ted Sarandos locking horns with Meghan behind closed doors, there was no more room for experiments. The executives went into damage control mode. They brought in new producers, scrapped entire scenes, and essentially turned what was supposed to be a polished second season into a Frankenstein production stitched together with half-baked reshoots and rushed improvisation. The goal wasn't to elevate the content anymore. It was just about salvaging what was left. As this chaos unfolded, more unsettling details started leaking out. Earners, the plagiarism claims, that alone would have been enough to rock any show's credibility. Meghan had allegedly borrowed concepts and dialogue from high-profile personalities like Gordon Ramsay, Rachel Ray, and even Pamela Anderson. Netflix legal team flagged multiple scenes that resembled published content almost word for word. Some of the so-called life lessons in the show's drafts looked eerily similar to past interviews and books these public figures had already released. It wasn't inspiration. It was near duplication. Behind the scenes, Meghan was still trying to regain her grip. After being shut out of creative decisions, she allegedly started reaching out directly to lower-level staff and editors, trying to sneak her original ideas back in. Word got around quickly, and Netflix higher-ups weren't pleased. The more she pushed, the more isolated she became. Eventually, even her inner circle on the set started backing off. No one wanted to be associated with what was quickly turning into a PR nightmare. Her office at Netflix headquarters became a symbol of the fallout. Once a buzzing creative hub, it was now silent, being repurposed for a different project. In the process of clearing it out, staff found even more personal notes, including sketches or episodes that never even made it into discussion. One was based on Meghan's supposed plans for a cooking spin-off featuring herself experimenting with organic recipes while reflecting on social issues. Another note included an outline for a musical-style segment with children's choirs singing about forgiveness and family healing. To some, it came off as quirky. To Netflix, it felt out of touch and wildly disconnected from their target audience. But the most shocking part came when a report surfaced about internal conversations between Ted Sarandos and senior producers. Apparently, there have been concerns for months about Meghan's tendency to blur the lines between reality and performance. One executive allegedly described her approach as emotionally performative, warning that the show risked becoming more of a personal therapy session than a piece of engaging content. Another producer was even more blunt, calling it unfiltered self-pity projection with no storyline anchor. And as Netflix tried to navigate this minefield, the media got wind of the tension. Headlines started to shift. No longer were they praising Meghan's bold new voice or her fresh take on storytelling. Instead, they were asking whether Netflix had made a massive mistake. Industry insiders began openly questioning how the project had been greenlit without more guardrails. Some called it a case study in what happens when celebrity is mistaken for creative direction. Meanwhile, Meghan was still trying to save face. Sources say she privately contacted streaming competitors trying to gauge interest in future content deals. But with the current mess hanging over her, no one was eager to touch it. Her Netflix partnership, once seen as a career-defining pivot, was now being described by insiders as radioactive. And with the second season still in hand, Ted Sarandos knew what was coming. The moment internal reviews of the show's rough cuts started rolling in, there was a collective sigh across the executive floor. The footage was uneven, the tone completely off, and the pacing all over the place. Some scenes felt like aimless monologues. Others looked like they were ripped from a personal vlog. There were moments where Meghan broke the fourth wall in ways that confused even the editors who weren't sure if it was scripted or just left in by accident. It was no longer a question of quality. It was now a question of reputational risk. Producers tried to salvage it by cutting around the worst bits, but they were essentially building a story out of scraps. Half the original cast had scheduling conflicts due to all the delays. The main narrative was rewritten so many times that no one could tell what the show was even about anymore. There was no central message, no emotional thruffing, just a patchwork of pseudo-inspirational content stitched together with moody voiceovers and recycled footage. Even the reshoots suffered because key locations had been released, forcing the crew to recreate entire sets from scratch. Meanwhile, Netflix's public relations team was bracing for impact. They knew they couldn't keep the lid on forever. Eventually, the public would find out that Meghan had been fully sidelined, her influence reduced to footnotes and archived ideas. So, they started crafting a narrative of their own, one that painted the network as having taken bold action to protect creative integrity. Quietly, they began leaking details of trade publications, framing the shakeup as part of broader reevaluation of premium storytelling standards. The goal was clear: control the narrative before Meghan did. But Meghan wasn't staying silent either. in private conversations with former colleagues. She reportedly described the situation as sabotage. She believed her vision was being diluted by executives who never truly supported her from the beginning. One source claimed she was even considering legal options to fight what she saw as contractual overreach. While there was no official lawsuit in sight, her team had started compiling emails, production memos, and internal correspondence that might support her claims of creative suppression. What she didn't anticipate was how much of the industry had already moved on. Agents, showrunners, and producers who once praised her were no longer returning calls. Even her allies in the entertainment press began shifting their tone, cautiously stepping away from previous endorsements. Nobody wanted to be the last one standing next to a project that was circling the drain. What began as a golden opportunity to rebuild her image after the royal fallout was now just another chapter in a growing list of public setbacks. The final episodes of Season 2 are currently locked in post-production limbo. Editors are under pressure to deliver anything that resembles a coherent product. But even they admit off the record that the bar has been drastically lowered. The goal isn't excellence anymore. It's simply to get through it without triggering another PR disaster. At Netflix headquarters, Meghan's former office sits empty, the nameplate long removed. Rumor has it that it'll be converted into a sound design room for another original series. For now, no one speaks about would love Meghan unless absolutely.